Good morning, all. Good morning, directors and members of the two associations. Good morning to professional colleagues, friends, and no doubt by Friday soon to be good friends as well. Please also allow me, on behalf of the Conference Organising Committee, the Scientific and the Exhibition Committee, to welcome you to Technology Convergence 2023. We're here to explore, to identify, to determine the latest trends and innovations in the fields of heavy vehicles, mass monitoring, and all the associated and related components. Today I welcome you, though, in a dual capacity. Firstly, as Gavin has identified, as President of the International Society for Way in Motion, but also I welcome you as an Australian to my home country of Australia. I'm honoured, along with Luce, to be your co-host for this exciting event, where we have gathered some of the smartest people, some of the technologically aware people, and also people who are good implementers, who can take these ideas and make them into ubiquitous processes that we look back and say, well, it's always been like that, even though there was a time when it wasn't. The conference theme of technology convergence is relevant and timely. This relevance and timeliness acknowledges the impact of the convergence in technology within our sector, delivering concurrently improved productivity, safety, and environmental outcomes. Technology convergence is a phenomenon where different technologies merge and interact in a way to create new possibilities and new opportunities. In fact, if we look at our own history, it is the driving force that many of the breakthroughs and discoveries that, as I said, we take for granted, have shaped our future. At this conference, we will learn of different disciplines and domains, different mass monitoring technologies and systems, different heavy vehicle hardware existing and emerging, and a variety of different software solutions. We will also be exposed to the various commercial, regulatory, and other regimes and schemes. However, this will all amount to very little. This will amount to very little as technology does not think or understand. Systems do not identify and negotiate needs. And ICT systems do not feel nor recognise, let alone celebrate success. Ultimately, in all these successes that we've had, ultimately, we as humans need to collaborate. We need to incorporate. We need to complement. That is, we will need a human relationship. We need to be, as humans, interoperable, not just simply as technology. Because a human relationship is what ultimately achieves the success that we are looking for. And by human relationship, I mean a relationship based on respect, care, attention to detail, removal of one's ego, dialogue, not monologue, dialogue to understand the nuances and the differences. As Luce successfully identified, the different policy environments that we live in. It's not one is right and one is wrong. They have different histories that have achieved this and obtained this position. The desire at a human level to work together to implement an outcome, to solve a problem, and to achieve and address the most pressing challenges that create some of the most exciting products, reforms, and initiatives. The theme of this particular session is to reimagine the future. And I pose to you that there's a lot of lessons in the past, because what I'm talking about isn't a new invention. It is what society has been doing for many years. I know that all of you have a mobile phone, and all of you use your mobile phones. Tell me, in the last 48 hours, how many of you have sent a text message or a short message service or an SMS in the last 48 hours? That's great. The technology of a short message service was around before the mobile phone was around. It was proprietary within telecommunication companies to send messages to their workforce. It was developed as a proprietary system to simply talk to people that you could not see, but your people. Then the ability to switch and to create technical interoperability was a day's work. The challenge was getting the right people in the room who said, why can't I talk to you that way? And the other person in the same table over dinner to say, I'm receiving messages from my work crew. Why can't I send that message to you? And when the human dimension realized that there's something here that we could build on, and when they worked at the right pricing structure, all of a sudden, we're sending text messages as if somehow it always existed, as if somehow this was a natural evolution, as if somehow it's ubiquitous in our everyday life. A similar example, but closer to home. There used to be a time that if you wanted to buy a WIM system or a traffic monitoring system or a camera detection system, you were forming a long-term relationship with one vendor. You were buying for life. It was beyond a marriage. At least with a marriage you could negotiate. At least with a marriage you could decide not to visit your in-laws sometimes. There was no such negotiating here. If you wanted a WIM system or a traffic monitoring system, you bought the sensor from one provider who, in a proprietary system, gave you the data logger, who in another proprietary system gave you the back office. That was it. Today, because these organisations have realised that they need to talk to each other, you can buy a sensor that you want for your needs, for your applications, and you can connect it to your own data system. But that was not always the case. In December of 1985, I started my career in this sector. As a road and a pavement engineer, who over time became a bridge engineer, I quickly realised how important mass was, not just to the road network, but to the operation of heavy vehicles. I realised that in many ways that and water, apparently, were the two most important things to make sure road networks operated. I learnt that mass has many uses: engineering, economic, productivity, associated safety issues, environmental consequences. I realised that it cut across numerous portfolios and stakeholders: roads, infrastructure, ports and marine, freight management, heavy vehicle operations and associated heavy vehicle regulations, network use and optimisation, and pricing the use of the network, all revolving around the collection of heavy vehicle mass. But when I joined this portfolio in 1985, in addition to having to have one system from one proprietor, long-term relationship, I also realised that the reliability, the accuracy, the integrity, and the frequency of collection of this information was rudimentary. At best, it was for research purposes or some very unique and one-off projects. I readily recall, over 20 years ago, some early discussions in Australia regarding the heavy vehicle reform of performance-based standards, where it was clearly recognised that geometric road capacity was easier to measure, easier to negotiate, versus the mass of the vehicle, especially with other stakeholders. Today, though, we have both on-road and in-vehicle weighing systems. Today, these systems have much greater integrity, much greater capacity. You can use it as a planning tool, as we used to. You can use it as a filtering tool. And we also know that you can use it for direct enforcement if you so choose. And there are numerous countries represented here where we do just that. The integrity and accuracy of the collection of mass information is now at a level and commercially available that we need to reimagine the future. As the theme says. When I go back to my starting years of 1985, I dreamt of the day when we would have greater accuracy. I dreamt of the world in which we would be able to say all these theories that we want, that we can't achieve now, we are by force in many ways, forced to build conservative estimates. The use of mass was by necessity conservative because we do not know. Today we need to rethink and reevaluate our uses and take into account the improved quality of this information and its availability. This conservative nature built into the design, management, maintenance of our infrastructure was there and is there for a legitimate reason. It is to cater for the things that we don't know. It is there to cater for the occasions which exceed the expected. Today, though, with the greater integrity and accuracy of this information, we have a whole new set of opportunities across numerous policy areas, so that rather than estimating the non-compliant or worst case, we recognise and give credit to the compliant and best case. To do this requires people to come together, though. The technology is available, it is used by different stakeholders, but it requires these stakeholders, road managers, regulators, industry, technology providers, and the community indeed, to come together and engage at the human level. Whether you collectively or individually like it or not, this is the engagement that you need to lead. In exactly the same way that leaders in the telecommunications industry recognised the benefit of texting outside of their organisations, you need to recognise the convergence of technology into the vehicle and the policy benefits that it can produce. So my message to you is that you will attend many sessions, hear speakers, read technical and scientific papers, including operational and proposed reforms. All of these will be enabled by technology. I ask you to remember that behind all these ideas, policy planning, implementation, and day-to-day operations are people. People like you and me. Ultimately, these are the ingredients that make the technology work. We have a packed agenda. It's 4 full days and nights. I don't expect to have to knock on your hotel doors to get you out. because I'm expecting you to be here. We have brought you a good scientific and technical program. We've brought you a very good series of user workshops, a very healthy exhibition, and we will hear many innovations. And my message to you is simply, remember, behind all of these are people. And you are the people. I'd like to thank also the efforts of both boards, ISWIM and HVTT Forum, for an excellent cooperative environment that has made the delegate the centre of the planned experience over the 4 days. On that note, I hope you enjoy the conference. We're here to help. We're here to answer any questions. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your participation. And please enjoy Technology Convergence 2023.